All right, well, welcome and thanks for joining the webcast today. We're excited to kick off round 2 in the North Carolina Water Loss Program. I'm glad to have you with us. And for those of you that are not able to join this morning, we are going to record and post. So we'll have an opportunity to review. This is really, it's going to be a fairly brief webcast, but we are going to just do an overview of the goal of this next round. We are asking you for a little bit more data. Hopefully not quite as much as was required for the last round, but this bit of extra data allows us to get into a little bit deeper analysis, and hopefully you will find it meaningful. And I'll show you some examples of the types of outcomes that we will be expecting from this round, and I think it will be of interest as we get into it. Just a quick shout out for our program sponsors, the North Carolina Department of DENR, and folks Tim and Kavitha. Thanks for being here today as well. And WRRI, the Water Resources Research Institute with Nicole. Again, this is Will from the Kavanaugh team, and we've got Drew Blackwell from the Kavanaugh team on as well. Here's a quick refresh on where we are in the overall program. You can see we're actually getting close to the end of the technical analysis pieces. We've got one more round of data that we're asking for, and we will be working then with that data to help develop what we call the water loss profiling and utility-specific gap analysis. And I'll show you some examples of what that means, what that looks like. Timeline-wise, we are here in transitioning. I can't believe it's March already, but we're here. And the data gathering will carry us through the end of March. Our analysis period will carry through early part of the summer. And really that's it. So there's not another workshop for this next round like there was on round 1. We will be doing a lot of the analysis really remotely and then sharing those results back with you. There is intended to be a final workshop where there's the opportunity for the program participants to get back together, but that's not until a little later this year. And it's really more about sharing the results and orienting ourselves towards how you might move forward once you're done with this particular program and carry these things into action, business practices at your utility, etc. So that's a quick overview of the timeline. Just to refresh, the arc of this program is adopting the M36 method. That's AWWA's manual for water loss control. It's actually called the Water Audits and Water Loss Control Manual. And that manual is state-of-the-art. It's in its 4th edition, originally out in '91. The last edition was in 2016. And actually, the next edition will be out probably around 2021. So it comes out every 5 to 6 years to capture the latest developments in the science and application of water loss management, new developments in modeling and analysis and technologies, etc. You can see there's been some other things happening on the timeline there. The release of the freely available water audit software, now in its 5th generation. Next year we'll release its 6th generation, and of course the North American Water Loss Conference. So this topic is one that's very much gaining steam in the industry, so this is an exciting time to be adopting and putting these practices into place, including the validation methodologies that everyone participated in round 1, the level 1 validation. So just a sum up, really, as Drew likes to say, the 450-page manual is a thick read. This is our attempt to sort of distill it down into a single graphic. But the basic idea is an annual audit that's got level 1 validation as sort of the backbone of the program. You use that to do a deeper technical analysis and look at the costs of different types of losses in the 3rd stage there. And you then use the technical and the economic information to make cost-effective decisions, basically design a cost-effective program. So what we're doing in this round 2 actually carries us through the technical and the economics, specifically looking at the profiles of the losses, the cost of those losses, and getting to a utility-specific target. So this will be for your utility, what level of water loss by component, the leakage, the metering aspects, the theft, all of those different components, what levels should you be aiming for to achieve and then maintain, and what makes sense from a cost perspective. So that's the arc of the logic and the science behind it. How do we do that? Well, we start by doing the water loss profiling, and that takes the results of the top-down water audit that came from the last round of work we did together in the workshops. What you have from that process is a level 1 validated top-down water audit. And what that does is it gives you a high-level understanding of the apparent losses and the real losses, but it doesn't break it down into enough granularity for you to be able to select the right interventions and to look at the costs in enough detail to make cost-effective decisions. And so that's what our work is for round 2, to get into a bit more of the break data and the apparent loss data to make those deeper analyses to help drive cost-effective decisions. So I want to illustrate just a couple of reasons why that plays out and why that's important. Leakage, as we're all familiar, something pops up, we get a call, there's a wet spot on the pavement, or there's water bubbling up, and sometimes shooting up like a geyser, depending on the situation. So that's water that comes to the surface, and we characterize that as reported leakage. This is water these are leaks that find you. There are 2 other types within your system, and the reported leakage only makes up a portion of the total leakage, as we saw from the water balance. The total top-down water balance gives you one number for the year, total real loss. Well, we break that down. The stuff that comes to the surface is only part of that. So you've got this other component called background leakage. These are not generating sound. They're not detectable through traditional means. And so if you go out and do acoustic leak detection, you're not going to be able to detect that portion of the leakage. And so acoustic leak detection is not the right tool. Then you have unreported leakage. That's the hidden leakage that acoustic leak detection would be searching for. So breaking these 3 down into their parts allows you to make sure that we are applying the right tool to the right part of the leakage profile. And in some cases, the reported leakage piece is actually a very, very small portion, on average, maybe even just 5% of the total. And the rest of it is in these 2 categories. And even in some situations with certain age on infrastructure and condition on infrastructure, most of the leakage actually might be in this background category and very little of it in the hidden or the stuff coming from the surface to the surface. And so in that scenario, the right approach is not going to be leak detection. It's going to be something else. So we'll give a couple illustrations here. In this case, this is an illustration where a utility had very little background leakage, predominantly unreported leakage, and a moderate amount of reported leakage. So the right tools for this particular scenario are going to be for the white portion, the stuff coming to the surface, is just to make sure that they're getting repaired in a timely manner, optimizing the repair time. But really, acoustic leak detection, actively looking and searching and conducting a survey on the network is the right approach, because the majority of the leakage is detectable through that means. We have another scenario where the profile of leakage is very different, and these are all based on real utilities and real numbers, by the way. So in this case, the background leakage is the predominant of the 3, and there is a moderate amount of unreported leakage and very little reported leakage. So optimizing the repair time once the utility becomes aware of the leak is not really gonna move the needle much. They're already pretty efficient in that portion. Some leak detection might find some stuff, but probably not is going to have a big dent, and therefore they've got to look at other tools. Optimizing how pressure is managed and modulated within the system is a big part of that tool. And then it really gets into asset replacement. If you've got high levels of background leakage, your options are limited, and so making sure we're matching the tool to the problem. So that's really the point of this next round of data that we're asking for, is it allows to gain an understanding of what does the profile of leakage look like in your system. It's not, again, when we get that total number coming out of the top-down water audit, but a total amount of leakage for the year is not enough to select the right tool to be effective at reducing leakage. So that's where we're at. Just a quick touch on the types of data we're going to be asking for in this round. First thing we're going to ask for is the water audit that we worked with you most recently, I believe was for the calendar year 2017. And so this is one we can do a couple ways, but we always encourage you to turn around and try to repopulate the next audit as soon as possible so that you can put to work these things that you've recently learned. And really, most of the hard work is done. You've already gotten the AWWA sheet set up. You've already figured out where the volumes are coming from and documented all that, and those documents were shared back with you after the last round. What we would ask is to go ahead and try your hand at doing a save as, create a 2018 version of the audit, update the numbers, and send that to us. If it's easier to send us just the volumes and the numbers, we're happy to jump in and help and be the ones to populate the audit, and we can work in collaboration with you. That allows for really for 2 years of audits to help guide this water loss profiling process. The actual profile data that we're asking for in this round is going to be for the calendar year 2018 if available. And if it's not available and some other time period is available, just let us know, talk with us, and we'll work with you on working with whatever is most available. But a data format for digital manipulation is preferred. If all you have on these things I'm about to walk through are paper records and all you can do is scan them to us, we'll work with that. So just let us know. But here's a quick overview of the types of information that we're hoping to get. The line repair data, and this is for both mains and services. And we recognize that folks track this in different ways and maybe in different systems, and some may not track this at all. And so we'll want to know if you're having trouble tracking down what this information we're asking for. Let us know, and we'll put our heads together, because we've seen a lot of different scenarios. We've worked with a lot of different utilities. We can perhaps provide some guidance on how to estimate when exact data is not available. But generally, you're probably going to look to your work order system for this type of information. If you're tracking things in a CityWorks or a Maximo or a Lucity or some other software, that's great. If you're tracking it simply in a spreadsheet somewhere, that's great. If you're not doing any of that and you're tracking these on paper records, and when you make the repair, maybe you just document that on a daily report or some type of written work order, and that's all you have, that's okay too. Then we would work with you to get those scanned and get those essentially scanned records to us, and we could digitize the pieces that would be necessary for the analysis. The types of information you can see here on the screen. The asset type, it is important to know if the repair to the line was a main repair versus a service repair. Other information on the type and size. The timestamp is pretty critical. When was the work order created, and when was the leak repaired? And the most important part of this is, when did you become aware of the leak, and then when was the leak physically stopped? So maybe you're tracking those exact things, or maybe you just track the work order was opened on this date at this time, and the work order was closed on this date at this time. If that's all you have, those can be used as proximity, or rather as a proxy for the repair and when the leak was physically shut off. If you have location cost to repair and an estimation of the pressure in the area, those are great. If you only have some of these bullets, but not all, then we'll take that in whatever format you have. That's for the line repair data. There are just a few more items on the network that are helpful for this analysis. For your top-down audit, you did have to tally up the total miles of main. For this next step, we want to go just one level deeper to that and understand the miles broken down by size and then roughly by material. And if these are in specific numbers, that's great. It's also workable if you just have rough estimates. So much PVC, so much metal line, AC, etc. Predominant material for your service lines, or do you have a mixture of rigid and flexible lines, copper, poly, whatever the material may be, and estimations of these other items as well. So those of these things are hopefully pretty quick hit. You can see on the first one, just that's hopefully ideally a digital file or an Excel file of some format in digital format, and then this is just a simple sheet with these numbers by the bullet. Some optional data, if these things are available, it does help us to dial in the analysis a little more. These things don't tend to be as available, but if they are, we would love to have them for you. And the customer meter data, if you've got any results from tests you've done, we'd be interested to see that. If you track overflows on tanks, if you track theft events, we'd love to see that. And if you track billing adjustments. That says 2016 and 17, that should actually be 2018, 2017 and 2018. But again, these are optional if they're available. What happens if we're able to get this information either in part or in whole, and again, we can work with you to estimate, offer guidance on estimating where extensive data is not available. What happens if we can do this is we're able to understand the profiling of loss in more detail and get to what we refer to as the gap analysis at the utility level. And here's an example of what that looks like. The volumes and values on the left, we look at volumes of non-revenue water by component. And we learned in our workshop and in our working together on the validation exercise the last round, blue is in leakage, the red is the apparent losses, primarily meter under registration, losses through meters under registration. And then the green in unbilled consumption, municipal uses, firefighting, flushing, etc. And so we have a where are you today, and that's the bar on the left, and where is the optimal target from a cost perspective, where's the optimal target to be aiming for, and what's the gap between those two? And if we can understand that on the subcomponent level, on the blue, the red, and the green level, then we can make a plan. Then we can make a targeted plan towards reducing from the current state to what would be economic. And then over to the right, we express that same idea in values rather than in volumes. So here's an example from a utility where annually the non-revenue water made up of the blue leakage, the red, the apparent losses, and the green, the unbilled consumption, was somewhere in the neighborhood of about $5 million a year cost-wise. And their economic, based on the volumes, their economic level cost-wise of NRW, non-revenue water, was somewhere around $2 million. So the difference there, if we just sort of roll those into roll-up without the subcomponents, makes it a little easier to think about. The difference is called the gap, and that's what we're trying to analyze is where are you today versus where would an optimized condition be, and what's the opportunity for reducing and recapturing some of that. From a volume standpoint, in this example, you can see that's over 2 billion gallons a year on an annual basis, and almost $3 million on a cost basis each year. And this helps set the stage for what level of intervention, and of course what types of intervention are going to be effective, but what level of intervention is appropriate, what's cost justified to be looking at. And we've worked with over 1,200 utilities, and some folks have a gap that's very big and it's very compelling. Sometimes the gap is actually very small and it's not very compelling, and that's helpful information as well, because it can guide you not to intervene and know that you just need to be in a maintenance gear, maintaining what are already relatively low levels of non-revenue water. So that's the goal of the gap analysis. That sets the stage for putting a cost-effective program into place. All right, rounding out again, just a refresh on our timeline. You are here. It is early March. We're asking for the data for round 2 by the end of March. And we'll be doing our analysis over the following months and results back in the early part of this summer. With that, just a reminder, there is a program website you probably have had a chance to visit. There's a live look at it, basically completing round 1, moving into round 2. And this is a good place to go if you just want to remind where things are in the program, if you need our contact information to reach us to ask questions. And then there is this upload portal that we would recommend you use for providing us the data that we're asking for today. So pretty easy. If you'd rather do it by email, that's fine, but the upload portal has you have your very own button. Just go there, click add file, and you can upload the files directly without having to mess around with email. That is really the key things. Those are the key things that we wanted to cover this morning. The why, what we're going to use this information for, the types of information that you're going to get back, utility-specific gap analysis and an understanding of what levels should you be targeting to reduce down to from where you are today, and how much money is that worth? Those are some key pieces of info. So let me pause, and I might go to Tim. I see that you're on the line, maybe Tim and Kavitha, Tim or Kavitha. And Drew, if you'll unmute them, I'll ask if they had any closing comments or anything to add in terms of the setup for this upcoming round for the utilities.
This is Kim. I don't have any comments. I just hope for everyone who's going through the audits, this is a helpful process.
Great. Thank you, Kim. All right. Well, with that, Drew, let me go to you and ask if any questions have come in through the Q&A panel. Any written questions come in so far?
Hey, Will. No questions have come in through the chat box, so we'll go ahead and move to the Q&A session. So this is the fun part when we unmute everyone's line. So what I'll ask everyone to do is if you would just self-mute yourself, and I'm going to take everybody off of mute through this GoToMeeting application. And then if you have a question, just unmute your phone line and just state your name and utility and any question that you have in regards to the overview, the process of the component analysis, or any questions specific to the data request for this round 2. All right, so we will go ahead and unmuting all the lines now, and just let us know if you have a question.
All right, we have an open floor. Just speak up and say your name if you do have a question. Right, and it's also an option if you want to chat, type a question into the chat box in your little GoToMeeting window. And we'll give it just a minute, just in case anybody does have a question for today. All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and bring our webcast to a wrap. Again, this will be recorded, so if you want to review the information that we have talked about today, it will be posted to that program website we were just looking at here very shortly. We look forward to coordinating with everybody and receiving the data for this next round. As always, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach the Kavanaugh team, and we're happy to help as we can. Look forward to working with you on this round. Everybody have a great day.